So this is KHURRAM Nasir and you're watching Optometry with KHURRAM. And finally, we have last lectures on the uveal tract. We have discussed the anterior most part of the uveal tract, which is called the iris, the anatomy and physiology of the iris, and we have discussed about the last and the posterior part of the uveal tract, which is called the choroid. And finally, we are going to learn about the intermediate uvea, the intermediate part of the uveal tract, which is called the ciliary body. Right, you know very well that the ciliary body is very, very, very important. The ciliary body got the vital importance clinically in the eyeball, right? And we will discuss about the different functions of the ciliary body. The most important function of the ciliary body is accommodation, right? And you know very well that what is accommodation? Accommodation is actually the process of increase in the plus power of the crystalline lens, right? Whenever an object is at far distance, then my lens will be flat, right? Less globular, right? And when this far distant object will come closer to my eyes, then my lens will increase its power and my lens will be more globular, right? That increase in the plus power of the crystalline lens when the far object will come closer to my eyes, so that increase in the plus power of the lens, of the crystalline lens, is called the accommodation. And the next very important, the vital, the essential important function of the ciliary body is the production of the aqueous humor. I have a detailed detailed lecture on the production of aqueous humor, the circulation of aqueous humor, and the drainage of aqueous humor. The link is in the description. You can watch if you want, but after that this lecture, right? So these are two important and vital functions of the ciliary body, right? So now we will discuss about the internal core anatomy and physiology of the ciliary body. So as I said, the ciliary body is actually the triangular structure of the eyeball, and I'll draw an eyeball here again. So this is the anterior-most, the cornea, the 1/6 of the eyeball, and this is the outermost, toughest membrane of the eyeball, which is called the sclera, right? And beneath the sclera, there is choroid. This beneath the sclera, the structures which is in the red marker, this is called the choroid. And you know very well the ciliary body is actually the extension. Actually, the ciliary body is extension of the choroid is actually, right? So this is choroid in the red marker, right? And the choroid will convert into a triangular structure which is called the ciliary body, this one. So this triangular structure, this is a cross-section view of the eyeball. If you see the eyeball from the front, the ciliary body is around the eyeball. It is around the eyeball, the 360 degree of the eyeball, right? So it is actually the cross-section. So that's why this is called the triangular structures from this side, from the lateral view, right? From the cross-section view. So this triangular structure is called the ciliary body, right? And the extension of the ciliary body is a movable diaphragm, which is called the iris, right? So today's lecture is all about the ciliary body, right? So this is the ciliary body, and you know very well that beneath the choroid there is a structure which is called the sensitive part of the eyeball, which is called the retina. So this black marker is denoting the first layer of the eyeball, first layer of the retina, actually the retinal pigmented epithelium, right? So in a broad spectrum, the retina got two layers only. One is pigmented and other one is the neuronal layer, right? So neuronal layer got 9 layers, right? So actually the retina got 10 different layers, right? So the first layer of the retina is the retinal pigmented epithelium, and the rest of the layers of the retina are neuronal layers. So in the blue marker, these 9 layers, this blue marker is actually denoting the 9 layers, right? So the first layer of the retina is called the retinal pigmented epithelium, then the layers of rods and cones, and then so on, right? Retina, the rest of the 8 layers of the retina. So remember that the point which I'm going to clear at this point. So you see the outermost is called the sclera. Beneath the sclera there is choroid, and beneath the choroid there is the first layer of the retina, which is called the retinal pigmented epithelium, and beneath the retinal pigmented epithelium the second layer of the retina is called the neuronal layer. So retina got two layers, pigmented epithelium and neuronal layer. So remember that the retinal pigmented epithelium, the black layer, it is not black layer actually. On this whiteboard, the black color is representing or denoting the retinal pigmented epithelium. So retinal pigmented epithelium is actually overlapping the ciliary body as well as the iris, the back of the iris and back of the ciliary body, right? As you can see here. So this is called the retinal pigmented epithelium, remember. And now the blue marker is actually representing or denoting the neuronal layer. Remember that at the level of the choroid, at the level where the choroid and the ciliary body is meeting together, this is called the ora serrata, right? And ora serrata is the point where choroid and ciliary body are meeting together. The choroid and ciliary body will meet together at the point of ora serrata. So remember that at the point of ora serrata, this is ora serrata, right? In front of the ora serrata there is ciliary body, and in back of the ora serrata there is choroid, right? And remember that at the point of ora serrata, back of the ora serrata, the neuronal layer of the retina got rods and cones, the photoreceptors. But if we move forward in front of the ora serrata towards ciliary body, there is no any photoreceptor cells, like there is no any rods and cones at that point, right, at the level of ciliary body, right? So we can say that the ora serrata is the point where the photoreceptor cells of the neuronal layer of the retina will get terminated, right? So it means that photoreceptor cells will not move forward towards ciliary body and iris. Only the retinal pigmented epithelium will move forward towards ciliary body and iris, and only the neuronal layer will move towards the ciliary body and the iris, but no photoreceptor cells or rods and cones will move towards those structures like ciliary body and iris, right? And the neuronal layer will also overlap the back of the ciliary body and the iris like this. But remember the one point, that back of the ora serrata, the neuronal layer is called the neuronal layer. But when this neuronal layer will move forward towards ciliary body and iris, it means that when the neuronal layer will cross the point of ora serrata, then this layer is not the neuronal layer anymore, right? And when that layer is at the level of ciliary body only, this layer will be non-pigmented epithelium of the ciliary body. You know that the ciliary body got two layers, right? One is epithelium, which is called the pigmented epithelium, which is coming from the retina actually, right? And the second layer as well is coming from the retina in the form of the neuronal layer. But when it will approach the ciliary body, then there is no any photoreceptor cells at that level, and this layer is not neuronal layer anymore, right? And what is this then? This is the non-pigmented epithelium now. So ciliary body retina got two layers. One is pigmented epithelium and the second one is called the neuronal layer. When these two layers will approach the ciliary body, one will be pigmented epithelium and other will be non-pigmented epithelium. And when these two layers will approach toward the iris, toward the back of the iris, then both of these layers which are actually coming from the retina, both of these layers will be highly pigmented. So remember this one. This point I was going to clear that the ciliary body got two epithelium. One is pigmented and other one is non-pigmented. And now I will draw that ciliary body. I will zoom that ciliary body here. So this is ciliary body. And this is called the iris. So we are going to learn about this ciliary body, right? So we will learn about the different layers of the ciliary body. So first layer of the ciliary body, you see this is ciliary body, and above the ciliary body here, there will be a toughest membrane of the eyeball, which is called the sclera, right? And you see, as I have told you in that figure, in that picture, that the first layer on this side of the ciliary body, there are two epithelia. One is pigmented epithelia, another one is the non-pigmented epithelium, right, at this side. And remember that there are two different terms in ciliary body as well. One is pars plicata and other one is called the pars plana. So what is pars plicata? Pars plicata, you know, plication means is the projections, right? Pars plicata. Pars plicata. So pars plicata, plication mean the projections, right? So these are projections. These fingers like projections, this is called the pars plicata. This area of the projections, you can see these are fingers like projections. So these fingers like projections are called the pars plicata, right? And you can see this is a plane area over here. So this area is called the pars plicata and this plane area is called the pars plana. So one is pars plicata, another one is pars plana. So there are pars plicata and pars plana. So this is pars plicata. Why pars plicata? Because plication is here, over here. So what is plication? The projections. These fingers like projections is called plicata. So pars plicata. And this smooth area, this smooth area is called, this plane area is called the pars plana, right? So there are two different terminologies, pars plicata and pars plana. And you know very well that at the level of ciliary body, there are two different epithelia, right? So first one is called, which I am drawing in the blue marker. This is called the pigmented epithelium of the ciliary body, which is actually the continuation of the retinal pigmented epithelium, which is coming from the retinal pigmented epithelium. So if this is retina, right, behind the ciliary body. So this pigmented epithelium is actually continuation of the retinal pigmented epithelium. So this is retinal pigmented epithelium, and beneath the retinal pigmented epithelium there is second layer of the retina, which was actually the neuronal layer of the retina, right? But at that point, at ora serrata, here it is called the neuronal layer, but when it will cross the ora serrata, it will convert into non-pigmented epithelium, right? So I will make in the green. So this green, so these two layers, the layer which is the blue marker, it is called the retinal pigmented epithelium, and this in the green marker, this is called, the blue marker is retinal pigmented epithelium, and in the green marker this is called the neuronal layer of the retina. But when it will cross the ora serrata, this is ora serrata, when it will cross the ora serrata, this neuronal layer will convert into a different layer which got deficiency of the photoreceptor cells, which do not have photoreceptor cells. So that will be a different epithelium, which is the non-pigmented epithelium. So this my hand is actually the ora serrata. So behind my hand, behind the ora serrata, there are two layers of the retina. One is in the blue marker is called the retinal pigmented epithelium, and in the green marker this is called the neuronal layer. And when it will cross my hand, when it will cross my the ora serrata, that blue shade will be the pigmented epithelium of the ciliary body. It will go the same, and that in the green marker it will convert into a different layer which will be a non-pigmented epithelium, which lack the retinal receptor cells or photoreceptor cells or rods and cones, right? I hope this is clear, and now we will start. So this is, remember that this triangular structure is called the ciliary body, and these fingers like projections is pars plicata, and these fingers like projections are called ciliary processes as well, ciliary processes. And now we will start from the outermost part of the ciliary body from here. Remember that there are 5 different layers of the ciliary body, and the first layer is called the supraciliary lamina, right? Supraciliary lamina. So first is number 1, supraciliary lamina. This is the first layer of the ciliary body, right? You know very well that above the ciliary body there is a toughest membrane which is called the sclera, and when beneath the sclera the first structure of the ciliary body is the supraciliary lamina. Remember that the supraciliary lamina, so this is I will choose, okay, this blue marker. So this layer in the blue marker beneath the sclera, the first layer of the ciliary body is called the supraciliary lamina. Supraciliary means, supra means superior, ciliary means ciliary body. So superior to the ciliary body, the first portion of the ciliary body is called the supraciliary lamina. Remember that the supraciliary lamina got the collagen fibers and the pigments. Remember that either it is iris, either it is ciliary body, either it is choroid, either it is retinal pigmented epithelium. This whole area got the pigments. And what pigments? Which pigment? The melanin, right? Melanin is actually a black pigment which covers the whole eyeball in the form of choroid from the posterior, in the form of ciliary body in the intermediate, and in the form of iris in the anterior side, right? And also the first layer of the retina, which is called the retinal pigmented epithelium, also got the melanin pigments, right? So it will give the whole eyeball is actually, you see the black marker is there, right, behind the iris, behind the ciliary body, behind the choroid, and also in the retinal pigmented epithelium. So this black area will produce a black box effect. So why that this black box effect is there? So whenever the light will pass through the eyeball, right, it will prevent the internal reflection of the eyeball, right? If there is no any melanin, if there is no any melanin in the iris, in the ciliary body, in the choroid, in the retinal pigmented epithelium, if there are no any melanin pigments, then it will produce a scattered image. The light will scatter. There will be internal reflections inside the eyeball. So that black box effect, due to the melanin pigment in every structures almost in the eyeball, it will prevent any internal reflections or glare inside the eyeball, right? This is important point. So supraciliary lamina got the collagen fibers and the pigments. And which pigment? The melanin, very important pigment, right, to prevent any internal reflections and glare, and it will give a perfect, sharp, precise image on the sensitive layer of the retina, right? So this is the supraciliary lamina. So this supraciliary lamina is actually the continuation of the suprachoroidal lamina. And in the previous video, we have discussed about the suprachoroidal lamina. What is suprachoroidal lamina? Suprachoroidal lamina is actually a space, a thin connective tissue between the sclera and the choroid itself, right? So this is sclera, the outermost structures, and beneath the sclera there is choroid, and between the sclera and the choroid, this space of the thin connective tissue is called the suprachoroidal lamina. So actually the supraciliary lamina is actually the continuation of the suprachoroidal lamina from the posterior side. So actually the suprachoroidal lamina, which is a thin connective tissue, will convert into supraciliary lamina. It means that suprachoroidal lamina will convert into supraciliary lamina, right? What is suprachoroidal lamina? Suprachoroidal lamina is actually the space, a thin connective tissue, a thin tissue between the sclera and the choroid. So this is sclera, this is choroid. Beneath these two structures, right, this space, this tissue is called, this thin tissue is called the suprachoroidal lamina, and when it will go forward, it will convert into supraciliary lamina. And what is supraciliary lamina? This is the first layer of the ciliary body. When it was on the choroid, it was suprachoroidal lamina, and when this suprachoroidal lamina will move forward towards ciliary body, then it will be supraciliary lamina, right? So that was all about the supraciliary lamina, which is the first layer of the ciliary body. And now we will discuss about the second layer of the ciliary body, which is called stroma. Beneath the supraciliary lamina, there is a muscle. This is very important. And what this muscle is about? This muscle is about the production of aqueous humor as well as the accommodation, as we have discussed in the first half of the video. So stroma, and in stroma, beneath the supraciliary lamina, there is a muscle. I will draw this muscle. So this is a muscle. And remember that there are three different fibers of this muscle. This muscle is called the ciliaris muscle or ciliary muscle, right? So this ciliary muscle or ciliaris muscle got three different fibers, three different types of fibers. And the first type is called longitudinal. Second one is called the circular. And the third one is called the radial. So longitudinal, circular and radial, right? So ciliary muscles got the longitudinal fibers first. So this is the longitudinal fibers. These blue, these are longitudinal. And I'm going to draw the circular fibers. These are circular fibers of the ciliaris muscle. And in the black marker, these are radial muscles. So there are three different fibers of the one ciliary muscle or ciliaris muscle. Those are longitudinal fibers. This blue marker is representing or denoting the longitudinal fibers, and this in the green marker, this is representing the circular fibers, and this black marker is representing the fibers which are called the radial fibers, right? So there are different functions of these three fibers of the ciliaris muscle. Remember that this circular fiber, only this circular fiber is involved in the process of accommodation. Remember that the fibers which are involved in the process of accommodation are circular fibers, and rest of the two fibers which are longitudinal and radial fibers, right, or oblique fibers, these are involved in the aqueous humor production. So longitudinal plus radial, these are involved in the process of aqueous humor production, but the process of accommodation is controlled by the fibers which are circular fibers, right? So first layer was the supraciliary lamina. Beneath the supraciliary lamina, there is a major muscle of the ciliary body which is called the ciliary muscle or ciliaris muscles, which got three different fibers. One is longitudinal, second one is called the circular, and the third one is called the radial fibers, right? So circular fibers are involved in the process of accommodation, and longitudinal and radial fibers are involved in the process of the production of the aqueous humor, right? So beneath the ciliaris muscle or ciliary muscle, there is the second part of the stroma, which is called the vascular stroma. So what is vascular? You know very well that vascularity is all about the blood vessels. And in the previous video, we have discussed about the whole arterial system of the eyeball, right? You know very well that the major artery is which is coming from the heart is internal carotid artery, and from the internal carotid artery a branch will come out which is called the ophthalmic artery, and this ophthalmic artery will give its branches towards the eyeball, right? And the blood vessels which are going towards the ciliary body are two different blood vessels or arteries. The one is called the anterior ciliary artery, which are providing nutrition or oxygenated blood to the ciliary body, right? One is anterior ciliary artery, and the second one is called the long ciliary arteries. So long ciliary arteries and anterior ciliary arteries, these two arteries are the sub branches of the ophthalmic artery. So ophthalmic artery has many branches, but the two are the branches which is anterior ciliary artery and long ciliary artery, right? These two arteries will give its nutrition to the ciliary body as well as the iris, right? So this is the artery, and it is giving its branch here. This is called the anterior ciliary artery, and the second branch is coming from the ophthalmic artery. So these two branches are the arteries of the ophthalmic arteries, branches of the ophthalmic artery. The one is called the anterior ciliary artery, and the second one is called the long ciliary artery, right? So the branches of these arteries are covering this portion of the ciliary body. So these branches of the arteries of the long ciliary arteries and anterior ciliary arteries, this is called a major arterial. They will make a major arterial ring over here, because this is the cross section view of the eyeball, and if you look eye from the front, so these arteries will make a ring at the ciliary body, and this is called the major arterial ring, right? So this is called the vascular stroma. And if we move downward, so there are two different layers of the retina. We have already discussed about those layers. Actually this is the third one, right? So the third layer of the eyeball is called the pigmented epithelium of the ciliary body. So what is pigmented epithelium? We have already discussed the layer which is in the blue marker, which is actually the continuation of the retinal pigmented epithelium, right? So this is called the pigmented epithelium. So this pigmented epithelium got many pigments like the melanin. We have already discussed what is the importance of the melanin pigment. And beneath the pigmented epithelium, the fourth layer is there, which is called the non-pigmented epithelium, right? And we have already discussed about the non-pigmented epithelium. So behind the oris recta, that was neuronal, and in front of the oris recta, this is now non-pigmented epithelium, which got deficiency of the rods and cones. So this, the anterior most or the outermost, you can say, or the innermost, this is outermost and this is innermost. So this innermost layer of the you can say ciliary body is called non-pigmented epithelium, right? So this is non-pigmented epithelium, and remember that this non-pigmented epithelium, at the level of non-pigmented epithelium, there is a blood-aqueous barrier. Remember that above this there is a whole blood is there, the blood vessels are there in the form of long ciliary arteries and anterior ciliary arteries, right? So blood is there. So between these vascular stroma, between these blood arteries and this non-pigmented epithelium, there is a filter over here, right? The blood will be here at this level, and there is a filter between the non-pigmented epithelium and this vascular layer, right? So only the selective nutrients, remember that only the selective nutrients from the blood will filter out, and it will extract by the ciliary processes and the non-pigmented epithelium of the ciliary body, right? So there is a filter over here. This is a filter beneath the vascularity, between the blood vessels and non-pigmented epithelium. There is a filter which is actually creating a blood-aqueous barrier. So actually the aqueous humor is coming from the blood, is extracting from the blood, but not the whole blood is coming in the form of aqueous humor, but only the selective nutrients. I have a detailed video on the composition of the aqueous humor and production of the aqueous humor, right? The link is in the description. So from the blood, the only selective nutrients are coming out, and they are crossing by the filter, this filter. This is called the blood-aqueous barrier. And when the blood is extracting, the specific portion of the blood is extracting from this filter, and it will moving here in the posterior chamber. That transparent liquid is called the aqueous humor, right? So this is blood-aqueous barrier as well. And now the last layer of the eyeball, which is called the inner limiting membrane. So inner limit, clinically it is not very important, the inner limiting membrane. Inner, you know very well, the last layer of the retina, the last layer of the retina got 10 layers, and the last layer of the retina is called the inner limiting membrane, right? So the inner limiting membrane is actually coming from the retina. It will overlap the ciliary body as well, and the last layer on this ciliary body is called the inner limiting membrane. And this inner limiting membrane on the ciliary body is actually the continuation of the last layer of the retina, which is inner limiting membrane. And remember that this blood-aqueous barrier will prevent the backflow of the aqueous humor. Only the aqueous humor can come from the ciliary body in the posterior chamber, but you know, this whole area, the whole posterior chamber, and in front of the pupil, the whole anterior chamber as well, this whole area is full filled by the aqueous humor, but this aqueous humor cannot move back. The backflow is totally prevented. And who is preventing this backflow? The ciliary processes and the non-pigmented epithelium, right? And the blood-aqueous barrier. So this blood-aqueous barrier is actually preventing the backflow of the aqueous humor towards the ciliary body. Only ciliary body can produce aqueous humor from ciliary body in the posterior chamber, but the backflow is impossible. The backflow is prevented by the blood-aqueous barrier. And remember that ciliary process, there are 70 to 80 ciliary processes in one eye, in the ciliary body, right? Ciliary processes. And you know very well that if you face a question that which structure of the whole ciliary body, there are so many structures inside the ciliary body as well. So if you face a question that which structure is actually the structure which is actually the source of the production of the aqueous humor, so that is ciliary processes, right? And the second precise answer is the non-pigmented epithelium. So non-pigmented epithelium on the ciliary processes is actually the structure which is actually the reason, the source for the production of the ciliary aqueous humor actually. So the functions, we have already discussed about the functions of the ciliary body. The major function you can see is the process of accommodation, right? And if you want to learn about that, how the lens will accommodate, you can watch this video. The link is in the description. That how the lens will accommodate when the object will come closer, right? How the lens will get more globular, and how the lens will get flatter when the near object will go far away, right? So for now we have discussed every aspect of the uveal tract. We have discussed iris, we have discussed choroid, we have discussed the ciliary body. And goodbye, and we'll see you in the next videos.